So what we have here is a little diagram of the Twin Towers right here, and then figure B right here is the center where the internal beams, the steel beams are, and then these squares each represent a floor. Here we have the 15 stories right where the plane was hit. Above where the plane was hit, there was 15 stories. Below where the plane was hit, there was 95 stories. And then inside of these 95 stories here are these beams supporting the whole building. Okay. On the outside wall, right here, these are the outside walls, where these steel beams connect to are trusses that are made of the same material as the steel beams, connected to each corner. On September 11, 2001, when the plane hit the building, the 15 stories that were above where the plane hit came down at a free fall speed and hit the ground. That's like saying that these 15 stories here were just placed in midair and fell and hit the ground at the same time that these 15 stories destroyed everything that was under them. This is impossible. The amount of force it would take to separate each of these beams from each of these trusses all at once is astronomical. It's possible that there was some thermal expansion that could have caused them to lose integral structure, but that wouldn't cause every single beam to fail all at once. What would cause each beam to fail all at once is a controlled explosion on each floor, leading all the way down to the bottom. Multiple firefighters heard this. Multiple civilians heard this. The news reported this. It was later taken down. So let's erase this now. So now that we understand that, okay. So what would have happened? What is possible physically that could have happened is something that looks more like this. Okay, so say these are the 15 stories right here. These are the 15 stories. The plane hits, boom, right there, bam. Explosion, explosion. Say the plane did go all the way through, out the other side, okay? What would have happened is the force from these 15 stories would collapse the same length as the 15 stories, so roughly 15 stories at most. So let's just say that it collapsed into it. This is what the building looks like now. This explosion's not here anymore, and the rubble is all over the place like a squished building, like that. So we have something that looks like this now. Sort of the 50, it stopped at this point right here, 30 stories below where it originally was in total, okay? So then what we would see is, since all the steel beams are disconnected here essentially because of the force that brought it down, this no longer has any connection to this part of the building. So the angle the plane hit it would have caused it to be sort of diagonal like this, so it would slide off to the side, go down. So what it would look like is that this would sort of fall down here, or it would just kind of stay where it is, until eventually parts of it fell off, until the rest of it fell off. So further evidence to explain these explosions, scientists found thermite-like compounds that could have been put inside of the buildings in each floor that could have caused an explosion similar to this, or got the steel beams to the temperature to where they could melt and to where each floor could have lost structure all at once. So that way this could fall at a free fall speed. That would be possible. Also, with several controlled demolitions, typically the center beam is thermited or melted at a diagonal angle like so. See that? Oh, that's kind of a poor depiction. Yeah, but it's sort of melted at an angle like this, disconnected, so it falls down, making this not structural at all. This fails. Well, after the incident happened, they found steel beams in the center of the bottom of the building that looked exactly like this, further pointing to there could have been some sort of high heat compound that could have melted the beams other than this plane that would have caused the building to collapse. So there's just a lot of scientific evidence here that doesn't add up. Yeah, that's just all I've got. So now that we've gotten some of the physics out of the way and why I personally, this is opinion based, but also factual based, why I think that we were completely lied to, and this has become extremely relevant, especially now after Tucker Carlson created the second 9/11 Commission, which I think should be even further looked into, in my opinion, as one of the most as the most tragic day in this country's history. So here I have some facts. These are facts. You may have to dig, but you can fact check me on every single thing I have listed right here. So I believe that the U.S. government was involved in what happened, and I also think the Israeli government, in correlation with the U.S. government, did have a massive impact on what happened. So here we have a little bit of a timeline, okay? In March of 2001, Ariel Sharon becomes the prime minister of Israel. Okay, that's out of the way. We got that. So during this time, Israeli art students were found roaming the halls of government buildings all across the country, taking pictures. Over 200 of those people were rounded up by the CIA and were discovered to be Mossad agents. This is real. Mossad agents, not art students. So as if they knew what was going to happen in this moment, multiple Israelis were caught photographing across the river in New Jersey, had a camera set up taking pictures before the event occurred, and they were dancing and celebrating as if they knew what was going to happen. Also, in a tunnel in New York, multiple Israelis were found in a van with explosives, and they were also discovered to be Mossad agents, and they were sent back to Israel with full pardon. Full pardon. So, after 9/11, okay, so this is the kicker. This is kind of the motive for everything. After 9/11, the U.S. went to war with basically every Muslim country in the Middle East that wasn't submitted to Israel. So, yeah, there's that. Yeah, after turning the people in America, the citizens, against the Muslims in the Middle East, viewing them as terrorists, especially the right side, viewing them as terrorists, Israel gained full control over the majority of those countries in the Middle East, and the U.S. was in a full-on global scale war. So I don't think necessarily that this was just some